This one Wednesday is like a normal day for the whole school. But today was different.
What's up, guys? Today we're talking about Weapons, written and directed by Zach Cregger. In Weapons, 17 children leave their homes at 2:17 a.m. in the morning, running out into the night with arms outstretched for no apparent reason. Their local Maybrook, Pennsylvania school and community are thrust into absolute chaos and confusion, everyone grasping for answers and tossing blame as they try to figure out this strange tragedy. A tale told from multiple perspectives, Weapons presents many questions and an exciting new premise. Before we go any further, I'm going to go ahead and drop a spoiler warning. So now's your time to pause this video, go watch Weapons, and then come back and let me tell you how to feel about it. Now, let's get into it. There is a strange magic in the way that Zach Cregger moves as a director. The cut to black in Barbarian may be one of the greatest comedic moments in a horror movie ever. He is a director that understands how expectations work in movies and how and why avid moviegoers arrive at the theater time and again to be surprised. Horror and movies in general should be surprising even if that surprise is loaded with predictability. The reason I enjoy all of the movies in the Halloween franchise is that I know what they'll be presenting, but it's about how they present those ideas each time that makes them effective. Weapons, however, takes that familiarity and makes it new. It's crazy, fresh, and you can smell a new coat of a different kind of paint coming off Zach Cregger's script. There's much being made online about how he writes his movies scene to scene, kind of in this transcendental meditation flow without much future planning for the end game. This is a feature of his writing, not a flaw. There is an adolescent yet advanced approach to his craft that feels really nice to unfold on screen, and throughout the movie I kept thinking how much Cregger evokes the Stephen King approach to storytelling. Weapons is ultimately a movie about a small town, which is a big plus for me as I mentioned in my Eddington review, grappling with something they cannot comprehend, the evil bubbling up below the surface at every turn. The tension is palpable, reminding me of a full-length equivalent of the white picket fence intro in David Lynch's Blue Velvet. Much will be made in the explained videos across the internet about the meaning of Weapons. I didn't leave the movie feeling like it answered all the questions it sets up, but I wasn't necessarily bothered by it because that wasn't necessarily the movie Cregger set out to make. This is a knuckle-biting, sweaty, and very hilarious movie, entertaining from start to finish. Even some of the more confusing flourishes make the movie enticing because you get so wrapped up in the characters and what they're doing. There's even a penchant for stupidity that makes it all the more alluring. Stupid characters make for fascinating movies. Having recently watched Joel Coen's Blood Simple, this movie functions on a similar level. How often you will think, what the fuck to yourself, watching Weapons works greatly in its favor. So yeah, you can impart all the obvious allegories for gun violence, school shootings, grooming, and child abuse. That's all there front and center, but instead of going the trauma angle, it doesn't. Wisely, this movie is focused on other more grounded ideas like addiction and familial strife. There's a central image of the movie that happens in Josh Brolin's Archer section that may throw a few people off. I liked it. It reminded me a lot of what Jordan Peele did in Us and Nope, and Weapons feels really similar to what Peele was doing in Us especially. It's bigger, sometimes more incomprehensible, but incredibly exhilarating with a strong penchant for euphoric imagery and storytelling. But the movie isn't just about those larger societal problems, or rather, it's deeply connected to those while also telling a very human story about how trauma has ripple effects on individual people and not just a group largely. The movie structurally is broken up into sections with 6 characters: Justine, Archer, Paul, Marcus, Alex, and James. Justine is a struggling alcoholic, but Garner plays her with such warmth and righteous anger and tenderness that you can see the pain she feels at having lost her classroom. She's also a sharp, intelligent teacher who just knows something is off with Alex. Josh Brolin as Archer puts in a tremendous performance, his section holding many key images alluding to what we'll see in the movie's final act. As you can gather, all of these characters were already interconnected, being denizens of Maybrook, Pennsylvania, and even that name feels ripped out of a King novel. So the way that Cregger lets you live with each character for a portion of the movie allows for you to see the many crevices and nuances of their town and how they each interact with one another. Things feel more personal, even if the multiple perspectives shown in a scene we have already seen play out doesn't always add much more than padding to the suspense of figuring out the answer of Weapons. And that's kind of the point of the movie, amplifying the tension to peak levels before giving you the most cathartic third act I've seen in a horror movie, maybe any movie ever. Alden Ehrenreich, holy shit, young Han Solo, puts in a terrific physical performance as bumbling cop Paul, a struggling alcoholic who has no semblance of having it together but tries to play it cool and confident. He is bad at his job, further underlining the incompetence of local police forces to actually find an answer to a mystery that they can only hope figures itself out. This is the frustration of a parent when law enforcement is framed as the main do-gooder in these real-life tragedies. There are some stupid-ass people working in the civil service, and many of them are unequipped for the tragedies thrown at them. His scenes with James, played by Alden Abrams, are some of the movie's best and funniest and grossest. Lots of penetration. He wants to be taken seriously so badly, but you almost feel like even he knows he's bad at this. While I found Alden Abrams' James the Junkie section to be entertaining and funny, I think it may be the one section that could have been trimmed down. It's a really great section, don't get me wrong, but other than that, it highlights how interwoven these characters are in their town. Like, it makes the movie feel more alive. It adds much less consequence in the long run, though there is a through line with the addiction storyline. But I'm not sure I'd be willing to sacrifice what charisma Abrams brings to the role. Like, I have known a James in my lifetime, and it's another incredible physical performance alongside Ehrenreich. All these actors have timing down pat. I really liked Benedict Wong as Principal Marcus, a commanding screen presence and quiet power in him. He's also extremely delicate, which adds a lightness and terror to the scenes he shares with Amy Madigan's frightening Gladys. And thereafter, Gladys's costumes will be seen at Halloween parties this year and moving forward, Cregger having created an iconic horror villain in her. And while the writing may feel flat and underexplained at times, the way that she penetrates and parasitizes this community in her villainous chaos is enthralling to piece together. Cary Christopher plays her nephew Alex, and I would simply die for this little guy. One of the best child performances I have ever seen. His screen presence is monumental, and the way the imagery that Cregger subjects his character to is deeply frightening, but elicited the best laughs from me when they happened. I'm never going to think of Forks the same way again. Christ almighty. I didn't connect emotionally as much as I would have liked. I didn't necessarily care so much about the individual characters as much as I cared about the stakes that their stories set up for the movie's climax. Still, they are all interesting enough, some more than others, and it's not often horror movies have this many memorable characters. I also felt that as a narrative choice, the opening voiceover by a young girl, assumed to be a classmate at Alex's school, was, I don't know, not for me. Cregger mentioned that this was kind of how the movie came about or materialized. He had the George Harrison Beware of Darkness needle drop sewn in early with the voiceover, and apparently part of the Magnolia comparison mentioned around this movie as well. Still, it ties up nicely after the ending where the little girl's voice returns to tie a bleak bow on things before the credits roll. The ending of this movie is truly phenomenal. Throughout the Alex section, Cregger sets up so much goddamn momentum and anxiety that I was sitting on the edge of my seat, peeling leather underneath my fingernails, waiting for it to happen. The movie is basically one long ticking time bomb, and I was beginning to feel worried into the second act because I knew something had to happen, but I wasn't sure how and when they were going to do it or if it would even work. Once Alex finally steps over the salt line, when has telling a child not to do something worked ever? What ensues elicited uproarious laughter and applause for myself and the audience watching. It is undeniable, upsetting, hilarious, bleak, and disturbing. It's also weird and so fucking creative that I was left smiling ear to ear throughout the entire sequence. It's masterful. And Weapons' final act is Cregger's greatest achievement as a director to date. I just don't know how he pulled it off, but goddammit he did! The movie's incredibly well made and filmed. The darkness is dark, and while it was difficult to make out what was happening, it amplified the horror and the scary moments Cregger trickles throughout. Cinematographer Larkin Seipel works wonders behind the camera, putting in a performance akin to Soderbergh's work on Presence. Many of the framing shots of characters such as the always amazing Toby Huss as Paul's boss at the police station have the characters partially outside the middle of the frame, opening up so much space for the audience to look for things hiding in the background. I look forward to a rewatch of the movie because there's so many scenes, both in Archer's nightmare and in Alex's house, with picture frames everywhere in the frame. I need to see what's in those picture frames. It's probably nothing, but it's another way Cregger creates tension throughout. You're just looking everywhere. Nearly every scene with dialogue is framed like this, ratcheting up the feeling that anything could come fumbling into the background. The camera is alive in this movie, adding even more fun to the frenetic storytelling and pacing of the film. It is crucial to making the actors' performances feel alive, and Seipel is putting in career best work here. I really liked the sound design too. The way the children's footsteps rumble up the steps was titillating, and the minimal tones and music notes add just the right amount of ambiance. Weapons is a marked improvement on Barbarian, if sometimes lacking in direction. direction. I would argue that the lack of direction is inherent to the story Cregger is telling, though. There is no sense in the world. People act in stupid ways. Look at how Carmy acts on the bear all the time. It's frustrating, but so is life. Awful things happen that don't make sense and we're just supposed to cope and live. Sometimes it makes more sense to post up in your CRV with a big gulp filled to the brim with vodka and a teensy bit of Diet Coke. Cregger has his finger on the pulse of exciting filmmaking, no question, and he understands the element of surprise better than any director working in horror in recent memory. While I was hesitant about my growing hype for Weapons, he delivered in every way. I left the movie elated and refreshed that we have a director willing to take risks and rejuvenate movies. I need 20 more of this kind of movie ASAP. Weapons isn't necessarily about AR-15s more than it could be about processing emotional trauma, but it has a lot to say without giving any clear answers. Cregger leaves that wisely to the audience to mull over and discuss on the car ride home from the Cineplex. I, for one, can't wait to see what Cregger does with his next movie, which is going to be working within the Resident Evil franchise. If he brings even an ounce of the creativity he brought to Barbarian and Weapons, we're in for a good time in Raccoon City. He's also now become one of my favorite working directors, up there with Jordan Peele in being able to concoct these big blockbuster movies within the horror genre and make them damn good at that. What did you think of Weapons? Did it leave you sleepy and bored, kind of like how it feels to be awake at 2:17 a.m., or were you wired and wide awake after its wild and bonkers storytelling? Leave all the comments below, and before you go, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more. Until next time, please do not cross that line of salt. I'm telling you, stop that. Don't.
I don't understand at all. Why just her classroom? Why only hers?
Where are our children?